What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own Fantasy Football Huddle, presented as always by DanklyfeBrand and our special sponsor, as always, Let's Talk Sports Brand. Now, we're getting into some trade talks today here as we get into week 6. Thursday night football is over. So today we're going to be doing things just a little bit differently. Typically, I give you some trade targets, some buy lows, some sell highs. We're still going to be looking at buy lows and sell highs. However, this week we're going to be looking at the people that have been the most traded players of the week so far since this last Sunday ended, and the most traded players of the week. And we're going to be talking about whether we're buying on them, selling on them, or if we're going to hold, whether we have them or not. So that's going to be what we're doing today, talking about our week 6 trades. So without further ado, let's fill up our cups, roll something up, and let's get right into the news, baby. So like I said, we're talking about some of our most traded players. Today we're focusing on the running backs and wide receivers. I'll have a quarterbacks, tight ends video coming up here in the next couple of days, probably after our next startums and situms. So the most traded running back of week 6 since Sunday ended has been Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals. I am buying on Joe Mixon if I can. He's been a top 13 running back in 4 straight years where he didn't get hurt. He's got elite volume that you just typically do not see from anybody else, on top of the fact that he does not have any competition for carries. There's only about 7 guys in the NFL right now that are getting the work and the lack of competition that Joe Mixon is. So you're really liking that look, as well as the fact that he's got a lot of favorable matchups coming up down the road. The big problem with Joe Mixon is he just really hasn't had his explosion yet. And who really has expected him to have an explosion with the Bengals struggling? But with Joe Burrow seeming to get back on track, the Bengals are going to also follow suit. And I'm liking it. Everything that's going well for Joe Mixon right now. He's had no touchdowns over the first 5 weeks, but he has had 16 red zone carries. So he's getting that work. It's up to the Bengals just to get him into the end zone. I like Joe Mixon. Perfect time to buy low on him. Another one of the most traded players of the week is going to be Brian Robinson Jr. from the Washington Commanders. His rushing role has been absolutely awesome, but the receiving role is growing. It's about where I expected it to be coming into the beginning of the year, but it is growing. And if anything did happen to Antonio Gibson, he would be looking at a three down back role, a full skill set role, and I'm liking it. When they do have positive game script, he is a bell cow running back, and he gets all of that work that you love to see. The only problem being the Washington Commanders. How many times are they going to have positive game script? He hasn't had the best past 2 weeks, but he hasn't busted, though. He hasn't fallen straight on his face or anything like that. He's looking really good, even though he's not had the best 2 weeks in his 2 bad weeks. They haven't really even been that terrible. He will be a top 10 running back this season. Maybe not this week. But I do see, barring injury or anything like that, I do see the great work for Brian Robinson Jr. I wouldn't mind making a move for Brian Robinson Jr. for the right price, but right now, I'm holding on him just because of how the Washington Commanders are. They've been doing well, but how long do we expect that to keep up? Next person we're talking about today, one of the other most traded people, and of course, somebody that we have to talk about right now, Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. You waited the first 4 weeks for him to come back, and he got 6 to 7 carries last week. Not much action, and Zach Moss went crazy against the best rushing defense in the league. Zach Moss right now is the 7th best running back in fantasy football in PPR formats, and he missed a week, the first week of the season. JT is leaps and bounds better than Zach Moss. So if Zach Moss is able to finish at running back 7 right now, what do you think Jonathan Taylor is going to be able to do with his skill set? I do think this next game or two, they're going to be limiting his carries, and I don't think that Zach Moss is going to completely vanish. I think Zach Moss maintains about 10 carries a game, enough for you to have him on your bench, use him in a flex position if you're in a pinch. But I do like Jonathan Taylor. They would not have paid Jonathan Taylor the money that they paid Jonathan Taylor before him coming back. So I would understand them paying Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the season. I would understand them paying Jonathan Taylor after the season. But after all of this contract drama that they had, the day before he comes back and is available, they signed him to the contract that he wanted. They would not have done that if they were going to diminish Jonathan Taylor's role in any way, shape, or form. Now, you do look at the fact that they now have a long-term investment in him, and they want to maybe not give him 30 carries a game, but Jonathan Taylor should still be in the line to 15 to 20 carries a game, 3 to 4 receptions a game, and Zach Moss will also have a small role, but I'm liking Jonathan Taylor right now, and of course, I'm buying him, especially after that first week of him returning and not playing well. It's the perfect time to buy low because his value got up and then it went right back down. Speeding things up here a little bit, we're going to be talking about James Cook from the Buffalo Bills. I'm selling James Cook this week if I can. He's the number one running back in the Bills offense, and that comes with its own price tag. He has gone down in touches consistently over the last 3 weeks. His snap count has also gone down, and the role in the passing game has gotten smaller. I would not be surprised to see him kind of get phased out, or at least phased in to a running back by committee by mid-season, which we're approaching a lot quicker. He's actually been traded more than Joe Mixon and Brian Robinson. He was the most traded player. However, I did want to make sure I mention him as my sell high of the week. So make sure you get James Cook off your roster and get some good value for him. Another player I'm selling high on is Kyren Williams. I don't know how good Kyren Williams really is at football. The problem with it being the Los Angeles Chargers or the Los Angeles Rams, we've seen this game for the last few years. Darrell Henderson came in. Everybody thought Darrell Henderson was the truth. And then Cam Akers took over. Everybody thought Cam Akers was going to be the truth. And now Kyren Williams takes over. Everybody thinks Kyren Williams is the truth. And at the end of the day, I got to be honest with you guys. I think Ronnie Rivers, the man that's behind Kyren Williams, if stepping into that number one running back of the Los Angeles Rams role, he is going to do the same, if not better than Kyren Williams. It's the story of the Los Angeles Rams. Kyren Williams is not that good of a running back. He's an NFL running back, but he was a second or third day pick. He's not exactly what he appears to be right now. It's the role of that running back for the Los Angeles Rams, and he's also been inconsistent. You look at the fact that he's got 6 touchdowns through the first 4 games. He also has way less targets coming now that you got Cooper Kupp back in the lineup. 2 targets, or there's going to be 2 people that this offense goes to. 2 targets, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Everybody else is going to kind of get in where they fit in, and you're not going to be able to rely on them on a consistent week in, week out basis. Kyren Williams is going to have good games. I'm not saying that he won't, but the consistency is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for somebody that my game, my week, my team's season depends on whether he plays well or not this week or not. I do not want that kind of player on my roster, and for that reason, I'm out. We're going to be moving on to the wide receivers. Like I said, speeding some things up here for you. The most traded wide receiver of the week is going to be Michael Pittman Jr. from the Indianapolis Colts. He is better when Gardner Minshew plays, believe it or not. There's more passing in the Indianapolis Colts offense. I do not want to overreact, though, to the fact that the quarterback changes. I do like him more with Gardner Minshew. He's going to have a higher target share with Anthony Richardson not running on those design runs. I wouldn't mind buying on him, but at the moment, I would hold on Michael Pittman Jr. I wouldn't sell him. I wouldn't necessarily go out and overreact and buy him, but I would take him for the right price. Another player that I'm going to be talking about most traded this week is going to be Cooper Kupp, one of the Copper Cup himself. I mean, you can ask anybody that actually knows me. During that first week when we were starting to find out Cooper Kupp was having some injury issues, this is the first week leading into the season, week 0. I was telling everybody that I wanted to sell Cooper Kupp as soon as he comes back and as soon as he has a good game, because all the injuries that he dealt with throughout the beginning of the season, all of the questions that we had at the beginning of the season, I was over it at the beginning of the year. But then he got put on injured reserve. Once he got put on injured reserve and you knew he was going to be out for the 4 weeks, now you knew you weren't going to be playing any games. You see him come back this last week, and he's back to the old Cooper Kupp. You definitely, like I said, don't want to sell him at the current moment, man. I mean, if you're selling Cooper Kupp, what the hell are you doing? You better be getting something extremely valuable out of it. I would prefer Puka Nacua right now just because he's cheaper, and I don't think Puka Nacua is going any damn where. But it's going to be so expensive to get Cooper Kupp right now. It's going to be, I mean, nobody's really going to want to pay the price that you're going to want to get for Cooper Kupp. So I'm holding off on Cooper Kupp right now. Some other players we want to talk about. My buy low of the week. It's going to be Chris Olave. He's had double-digit targets through the first 3 weeks. His last 2 weeks, he had Derek Carr had a shoulder injury, and they had a 30-point lead last week against the New England Patriots, which never is a good addition for a good positive game script as far as a wide receiver goes. Derek Carr hasn't necessarily shown that he's an upgrade, but he definitely has shown that he's not a downgrade. You're not going anywhere. You haven't lost a step from what you had with Andy Dalton. Chris Olave has had the lack of ability to get downfield, as is one of his wheelhouses, with Derek Carr struggling. And you're also looking at the lack of touchdown production that he has had in these first few weeks. Another big thing to add on is that they've added Alvin Kamara back. They're getting Jamal Williams back next week. So they're getting some more targets to spread out. Now that would potentially hold you off from buying in on him. However, you're now looking at this offense besides the quarterback situation. That's another conversation for another day. This offense is finally running full steam ahead. Michael Thomas healthy, Alvin Kamara healthy, Jamal Williams healthy for the first time in years. Now that you're getting Chris Olave, I mean, especially in Chris Olave's career, he never had a full offense that was at its full potential last season, and now you do. And so the target share is going to be spread, and so is the defensive attention. And I think Chris Olave is going to have a lot more explosive big plays, which is really where you're going to bank in on Chris Olave being a very high production player for you towards the end of the season. Derek Carr's top target has always been a producer in fantasy football. Look at Hunter Renfrow, who was a top 12 wide receiver last year with the Raiders. And where's Hunter Renfrow now? Exactly. Derek Carr always provides good value, especially to the top targets on his team. Person I'm selling high on right now is going to be George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, everything has broken completely right for George Pickens. You're looking at Deontay Johnson has been hurt. You're looking at the fact that this offense has been kind of struggling. You're looking at Pat Freiermuth being hurt, but I'm not confident in the Steelers offense to be consistent, to continue to be able to produce numbers for George Pickens. Unless Pickens, because when you look at his games, a lot of his points are coming from two big catches, a big touchdown catch. Unless Pickens can beat every single cornerback that he's matched up with and leave him in the dust, and then on top of it, make those circus catches because Kenny Pickett's little hands are not getting it all the way where they need to be, then he cannot sustain this volume that he's putting up, this production that he's putting up. I think he's a good player. You heard me call him out at the beginning of the year. I said he was going to be a good player. However, the problem is the Steelers' offense. How good can George Pickens be in one of the least efficient offenses in the league? Plus them getting Pat Freiermuth back, plus them getting Deontay Johnson back as well. So he's going to be losing his target share that he's been able to kind of gorge on over these first couple of weeks. So with that being said, I'm selling on George Pickens. That's going to be it for today's trade episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Like I said, we're doing a quarterbacks and the tight ends episode here in the next couple of days, as well as our next startums and sit-ems for our Sunday and Monday lineups as well. As always, keep your chin up and your attitude down. I will see y'all next time. I'm out of here. Peace out.
Bye.